So when I think about this problem, especially as it applies to nonprofits, a lot of that has to start with what is your CRM? Because the CRM is the source of truth for your organization. That's where all the data is held. And then you're asking, okay, well, can it integrate here, there, and those sort of spokes from your CRM, and how do those talk to each other? But the CRM is where it starts. And so I think this conversation has to really think in the context of if you're starting from scratch, the CRM conversation is where that integration conversation needs to start. Is what is that philosophy of that CRM and their ability to integrate with other vendors? Because if that is a closed ecosystem, it's going to make it really hard for you to work with best in class tools. If it's a more open ecosystem and they do offer those integrations as a philosophy of the CRM, and you see that happening, it will open your options for things that you may not know you need to start.
When thinking of these all-in-one solutions or adding additional point solutions in, one of the biggest things that we have to ask ourselves is the significance of the business problem we're trying to solve. A lot of times, some of the areas that a particular solution falls short aren't actually core. They're nice to haves, they're not requirements. And so being really clear on what our requirements are, being really clear about what's core to our primary goals for approaching this, and then making sure that we're not getting swayed by bells and whistles that may be interesting at some point in the future, but actually don't speak to what we need. And that would, of course, speak more to the all-in-one solution and living within that rather than just adding additional point solutions as we go.
How core to your business is this functionality that you're trying to add? Is it something that, is low risk? Like a lot of the times for basic stuff, it's completely acceptable risk to rely on third party for it, especially when it comes to areas that, may not be your area of expertise or your core competency for your organization. Does it really make sense to try to build it yourself when there's a lot of really great options out in the market?
Not just a build versus buy question, but an automate versus manual process question. Because you can work with a tool, and if you actually consider all the lift involved with automating, bringing this data into my CRM, there's a lot of times you can do that manually with a high level of customization with an import export, in a way that might even be more time saving and lower cost over if you factor in all the variables there. Keeping a close eye on contracts and contract renewals, I think is really important. As you think about evaluating other tools, frequently you have that moment, whatever that is, that you're like fed up, your accounting data is not reconciling, whatever that is that's causing this, I need to reevaluate a new vendor. But then little do you know, you're in a 3-year agreement that's only on year 2. You have to wait another year or so on to even start a new contract. So I think that's a really important consideration is keeping a close eye on those contracts, the contract terms, the lengths, and when those renewals happen, because that, maybe 3 months prior, 6 months prior is really probably the best time to start doing a serious search so that you're ready to cleanly jump into a new system without being locked into a contract.
We do an annual staff survey. That's one way we do that, about technology needs and how the different systems we have are working for folks. I think it's important to do that to surface issues that have emerged that you're not aware of, and also just to periodically review and do a sort of deeper dive with what systems you've got and how they've evolved or haven't as the organization has. And that's feeling more and more true, to Max's point, during COVID and all the ways it's required us to pivot and adapt. The systems that are lagging behind have become, I think, more and more obvious.
It needs to be data driven, right? So don't let just the fear of change or aversion to trying something new. Like really, I think if you have that cadence, and you can hold yourself accountable to data outcomes, whether it's a staff survey or other KPIs related to your own systems.
For us, it's been easy. It's budget is the primary one. And so we have a plan of like the budget we plan to spend on in this area. Though recently, I would say security breaches are a major topic of conversation, and we'll reshuffle the deck quickly when they occur. And I've seen a number of organizations reconsidering what they're willing to tolerate due to security breaches.
A frequent straw that's breaking the camel's back right now, in all seriousness, has been COVID. I think it's been a big wake-up call for organizations where you have, especially when your only experience and engagement with your donor is online, it's just that much more important that that's done at a really high level and done well. And, nonprofits as a traditionally risk averse industry, and understandably so, I think are experiencing a time when there is no playbook and there is a risk in taking no risks. And so it kind of, if anything, has sort of freed up organizations who maybe were considering a change for a long time to say maybe now's the time, and to think a little bit longer term if they're able to. But that varies, and every organization's in a different spot. But I think that the time we're in now has been sort of a time for that to be reevaluated and reconsidered from the ground up in a way that's never really, otherwise wouldn't have really been there. There was no impetus to reevaluate and look at those things. So
I can say from my side, the biggest driver has always been major service outages. Those are some of the ones that have bit us the most just throughout my career. That's always a major pain point. It goes back to some of the earlier discussions about, risk. Is the service going to be reliable? That's been a big problem.
The need to make that time a part of what you're asking for from your staff. So I think what generates a lot of frustration is like getting up to speed on certain tools is just in their free time. And so if it's the expectation that you have to, like, I'm setting aside your time and the organization's time to do this, maybe that alleviates some of the like reluctancy to really like adopt and adapt new tools.
I think building it in as much as you can to the workday is critical. It shouldn't be outside of work time. The other thing, and this is more to change management than it is to evaluation, but it's worked well for us, so I'll share it. When we're integrating a new tool that we've acquired, or that, in the rare times we've built it, we make sure and mark it as a celebration. We mark the occasion and celebrate with staff so that it's something that's actually fun. We get a cake, we have some sort of opportunity that, food goes a long way, especially sweets. We make sure that there's something to celebrate about it, not just like, great, here's a whole bunch of new work for you. And so we'll try and do that. We'll also make sure and go out of our way to be really, really open to feedback so that folks feel comfortable and don't feel scared to say, this isn't working for me, or I don't get it, or this isn't exactly right. Because otherwise they'll just suffer in silence and we'll never know until like 6 months later.
For each person in your organization can go on and sign up for the specific types of candy they want delivered to their house. And it was meant to be an alternative to the snack room snacks. So everybody got to customize whatever sweets they wanted delivered to their house. It was a pretty nice idea. Worked pretty well.